Hey guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Joseph. In today's video, we're going to be shooting some shallow depth portraits. But before I get into it, I want to talk a little bit about my canvas backdrop. Do you notice the backdrop in the back? It looks like canvas, right? It actually is printed on a material and it was sent to me by katebackdrops.com and it's amazing. I'm going to talk about that more in another video, but today's video is more about the shallow depth portraits. So let's just jump right into it. Alright, so the thing about shooting shallow depth portraits in the studio is you need a lens which is going to be fast. So anything from f2 down to 1.4 or 0.95 or 1.2. I know I'm mixing them up, but you get the idea. It's actually suitable for this. And also you need like longer focal lengths because you're shooting portraits. Unless it's a stylistic approach, then you can use something like a 50 or 35 1.4 and those will still give you shallow depth. But then mind you, because they are wider lenses or slightly wider lenses, you're gonna get a little bit of a distortion. That is why I mentioned those are not generally suitable for portraits unless that is a stylistic approach that you're going for. So the lenses I recommend are gonna be 85, 1.4, 1.2. You can use a 105, 1.4. You can use a 200, 2.8 if you have that. But generally, lenses which are very fast are suitable for this kind of portrait. For me, I'm going to be using my Sigma 85 1.4R lens and I'm pairing it with my 5D Mark IV to take these series of images. So my lighting setup for this particular shoot was done with two lights and I'm using my main light which is coming in 45 degrees up and down towards my subject, and I have my strip box coming in from camera right behind my model, and that is just serving as a rim light just to add a little bit of separation from the backdrop. My main light also is my Godox AD400 Pro, more on the TZL later in the video, but it's coming through my beauty dish. And the reason why I chose a beauty dish for this particular shoot is because the whole image is supposed to be soft and dewy, and this modifier gives me that effect. It's a mixture of a hard light and soft light. The light that comes out of a beauty dish is just amazing. It's perfect for if you want to get that dewy or natural or fresh look on your subjects, and so I chose that for this particular shoot. One general rule is when you're shooting soft portraits like these, because of the depth and the shadow amounts that you create on your subject, you generally want to eliminate or reduce those shadows. And the way I did that in this shoot was just to add my reflector underneath, and so that light which is coming in from the top bounces down on the reflector and also goes back onto my subject and reduces the shadows that are being cast by the main light. And then my rim light which is coming in from the other side or behind her is just edging her out really nicely. And the reason why I did this is also because I wanted to see the main light and the reflector in my subject's eyes. Adding those catch lights in your subject's eyes or in your portrait just makes it come to life. It just adds an extra pop to the images, and it's something I really like to do. So if you're shooting and you don't generally see your catch lights in your subject's eyes, try that and see if it looks different or if it enhances your images in any way. Alright, so talking about the TTL which I mentioned earlier on, I'm using my brand new Godox AD400 Pro for this shoot, and it's a TTL strobe. So TTL is through the lens metering, so your light is able to expose for your subjects through the reading that is coming through your camera. And I never really dabbled in it because I always want to have full control of my shoots. And so even with my rim light, which is my speed light, that is a manual flash. So I had to manually fine tune the light ratio to a point that looked good to me. But when I got to the TTL, I wanted to try it out and see how it works. And all I did was just flip my trigger to TTL and just took a test shot, and it actually got the exposure right. I didn't need to guess, I didn't need to shoot to see if I'm underexposing or overexposing. It just gave me the right setting. But it was just a little bit too hot. But you still have a little bit of control when you're shooting TTL. You can just tone down the light output which is coming out of the light a little bit, so you can either tone it down or increase it, because sometimes TTL may miss a little bit. It might underexpose a tiny bit or it might overexpose, and in this case it's overexposed just a little bit, so about 1/3 of a stop. So I just brought my setting down 1/3 of a stop, and when I took my second shot, it gave me the perfect exposure, and it actually maintained that ratio consistently throughout the shoot. I know we're shooting in a controlled environment, but I'm amazed at how I was able to keep the lighting ratio consistent throughout the entire shoot. So you notice my model has wrapped her hair with this green towel, and we wanted to add a little bit more style to it, so we paired it with these green emerald earrings and also matched her makeup actually to the greens in the earrings and the towel, and everything looked really cohesive and nice. And because of the color of the backdrop, she was really separated from it because those colors were not present in the backdrop, and so it added a lot more contrast. And even though gray is like a neutral color, it still enhanced the entire look of the shoot. So it's something that I recommend that you guys do. Always tone down the background color, or if you can complement it, you can. But for this, I just wanted to maintain the color scheme on the subject. So the towel, the earring, her eyeshadow color. So I had these flowers lying down in my house, which is predominantly green, but has these white roses of flowers there. And I just added it to, you know, added like another dimension to it. So sometimes you may have things lying down in your house, just add them to the shot. If it adds up to it, keep it. If it doesn't, just take it out. Again, experiment as much as you can when you're doing shoots like these. You never know what's going to actually make or break the images. So I'm going to leave you guys to enjoy the behind the scenes footage that I captured from the shoot session. But before that, I just want to go over the key points that I mentioned earlier on. So the first thing is, if you're shooting shallow depth portraits, you need to really pay attention to the lens that you're using. It needs to be fast. So anything from 2.0 all the way down to 0.95, if you have that, will work well for that. But then again, if your number is really small or your aperture is really low, then you also need to be careful about the way you're positioning your subject, because if you turn one eye towards the camera, the other one might go completely blur if you're shooting like 0.95 or even 1.2, because those apertures are really, really shallow. But for me, I kept it at 2.2 because I still wanted to see a little bit of detail in her eye, which is away from the camera when she turns, and when she turns completely to the camera, I would have both eyes as well in focus. Next thing is your lighting. If you want to do a 2-light setup like this, always try and make sure you're getting a little bit of the catch light in your subject's eyes, and also put a reflector underneath to bounce some of that light back onto your subject to reduce the amount of shadows if you want to get that soft look. If you want to get that punchy yet soft and crisp, dewy looking images, I recommend you use a beauty dish, because that's a modifier that would give you that. If you're using a soft box, you're just going to get like soft light on your subject. If you're using a cone, you're just going to get like a harsh, punchy and crisp light on your subject. But the beauty dish is like the cone and the softbox got married and gave birth to a beauty dish, because you're getting both qualities, and it's just an amazing modifier. The last thing is also just adding more depth or substance to your images, and you can do that with the styling. So we styled her with a towel in this case. We added some earrings as accessories, matched the eyeshadows to the whole color scheme, and also later on added some plants just to give more life to the images, and it turned out really great. So again, experiment as much as you can. You never know what's going to work or not in your images. Alright, so that's it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and click the notifications icon so you're notified when I drop the in-depth video about my kids backdrops. I have the link down below if you want to check them out. If you want to see the kind of backdrops that they have, click the link down below and check them out on their website or even on Instagram. All the links are down below. Check them out as well. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Remember, don't ever give up.
Ha ha ha!